Welcome to our deep dive today. We're going all the way to South Africa. Stellenbosch, to be precise. You sent us some really interesting excerpts. It looks like they're from a document all about Stellenbosch, but it's in Portuguese. So I have to admit, I'm already pretty intrigued. But our mission, if you choose to accept it, is to get you totally up to speed on Stellenbosch, the wine region. So everything from, the history, what makes these wines so special, who are the big producers, that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's really cool to see Stellenbosch getting more attention internationally. I mean, a document in Portuguese, that says something about how far its reaches these days. It really seems like they're making a name for themselves on the world wine stage, and, deservedly so, I think.
Yeah, definitely. From what I've been reading, it seems like there's a lot to discover. Like, did you know that Stellenbosch is actually nestled between two oceans? Talk about a unique influence on the terroir, right?
Oh, absolutely. That's one of the things that makes Stellenbosch so fascinating. You've got the Atlantic on one side and the Indian Ocean on the other. So that kind of double dose of maritime influence creates this really specific set of conditions for the grapes.
Wow, that's wild. Okay, so you keep mentioning terroir. Can you tell me a little more about what that actually means and what makes it so special in Stellenbosch?
Sure. So basically, imagine Stellenbosch like a natural amphitheater almost, surrounded by all these mountain ranges. So you've got these diverse microclimates within the region, warmer slopes for the grapes that love sunshine, cooler valleys for the ones that like a bit of shade, and then the soils too. Oh, the soils are incredible. You've got granite, shale, clay, sand. They all contribute to this amazing complexity you find in the wines.
So it's like this perfect storm almost. You've got the ocean breeches, the mountains, and this incredible variety of soils. It really does make Stellenbosch's terroir sound pretty special. And I'm already getting curious about how those environmental factors actually translate into the taste of the wines.
Oh, yeah, we'll definitely get to that. But first, I think we should go back in time a bit, talk about the history of Stellenbosch, because it's got quite a story. It all goes back to 1679, when it was founded by this guy, Simon van der Stel.
Okay, Vederstel, who was he and why should we care?
Well, he was the governor of the Cape Colony at that time, and importantly for our deep dive here, he was a huge wine enthusiast, and he actually encouraged settlers to cultivate vineyards because he recognized the potential of the region, even way back then, and some of those early settlers were French Huguenots, and they were known for their winemaking expertise.
Ah, so right from the beginning, you had this blend of Dutch and French influence. I bet that played a big role in shaping the wines we know and love today.
Absolutely. It's this fascinating mix. You can really see how those cultural influences come together in the glass. And, the quality of the wines was recognized pretty early on, too. Stellenbosch wines were even enjoyed in European courts back in the 18th century.
Wow. Centuries-old recognition. That's impressive. Okay, so we've got this amazing history, unique blend of cultural influences. You mentioned the unique flavors. I know Stellenbosch produces familiar grapes like Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, Shiraz, all that. But what about this pinotage I keep hearing about? Is that something unique to South Africa?
Yes, you hit the nail on the head. Pinotage, uniquely South African grape. It was created by crossing Pinot Noir with Cinsault. And you don't really find it in many other wine regions, so it's a real draw for anyone who wants to taste something different.
So if I want to try a wine that really embodies the spirit of South Africa, pinotage is the way to go.
I would definitely recommend it. And don't forget about their white wines either. Stellenbosch is also known for Sauvignon Blanc, Chardonnay, and even Chenin Blanc.
Wait, Chenin Blanc, I thought that was a French grape.
It is originally, but Chenin Blanc has been cultivated in South Africa for so long now that it's practically considered a native variety at this point, and Stellenbosch is making some really exceptional expressions of it.
So we've got this amazing history, a unique blend of cultural influences, and this diverse range of grapes, including the intriguing pinotage and a South African take on Chenin Blanc, and starting to understand what makes Stellenbosch so special. But how do these grapes actually get transformed into wine? What are the winemaking practices like in Stellenbosch?
The winemakers in Stellenbosch, they really have this incredible ability to blend tradition and innovation. You'll find some winemakers who still use open fermentation tanks, like really honoring those age-old techniques. But then you also have those who've really embraced modern technology, temperature control, stainless steel tanks, all that. And it's that balance, I think, that allows them to produce such a diverse range of wines. Reds, whites, rosés, sparkling wines, even dessert wines.
So it's like they're taking the best of both worlds, honoring the past, but also looking towards the future. That's really cool.
Yeah, exactly. And speaking of evolution, I think this is a good time to talk about that ward system you mentioned. Remember, it's a relatively new concept. They introduced it in 2009 to really showcase the incredible diversity of terroir in Stellenbosch.
Right. You were comparing the wards to wine neighborhoods. Can you break that down a bit more for me?
Of course. So basically, there are 24 distinct wards, and each one has its own unique climate, soil composition, and elevation. So, like you mentioned Bangkok earlier, right? Known for those elegant reds. Well, a lot of that elegance comes from the decomposed granite soils found there. They give the Cabernet Sauvignon this incredible structure and minerality, which allows them to age so gracefully.
Ah, so the type of soil actually has a direct impact on the taste of the wine. That's really interesting. It's like each ward has its own distinct personality almost. What are some other wards that really stand out to you?
Well, we talk about Junkerchick Valley, with its cooler climate, perfect for white wines and dessert wines. Then you've got Simonsburg Stellenbosch, known for its warmer temperatures and those really intense Shiraz and Pinotage. But one that I think often gets overlooked is Helderberg.
Helderberg. What's special about that one?
Well, Helderberg sits near False Bay, but gets these lovely, cooling ocean breezes, which creates this perfect environment for both reds and whites. You get elegant reds with softer tannins, and white wines with this crisp acidity and beautiful minerality.
So it's like the best of both worlds. I can see why you'd say it's overlooked. It sounds like a hidden gem.
It really is. And then there's Baudelaire Hills, with those rolling landscapes and decomposed granite soils. Warmer area, well suited for full-bodied reds. You'll find some delicious blends coming out of Baudelaire Hills.
Wow. This is all so fascinating. I feel like I'm really getting a sense of the nuances of Stellenbosch. It's more than just a place. It's like this intricate tapestry of all these different terroirs.
Exactly, and that's what makes exploring Stellenbosch so exciting. It's a region that really rewards curiosity.
Speaking of exploring, let's say I'm lucky enough to visit Stellenbosch someday. Besides indulging in some wine tastings, obviously, what else does the region have to offer?
Well, you can't talk about Stellenbosch without mentioning the Stellenbosch wine route. It's one of the oldest and most established wine routes in South Africa. Imagine winding roads through stunning landscapes, passing historic estates, charming towns, and of course, endless vineyards.
Oh, wow. Sounds like a true feast for the senses.
Exactly. You can take a guided tour, hop on a bike, or just rent a car and explore at your own pace. And so many wineries offer tastings, cellar tours, gourmet food pairings, you name it.
Okay, I'm convinced. Stellenbosch is officially going on my travel bucket list. Are there any big wine events or festivals I should try to catch? I'm picturing something lively, festive, under the South African sun.
You read my mind. Stellenbosch is known for its lively wine festivals. There's the annual Stellenbosch Wine Festival, where you can sample this huge selection of wines from all over the region.
Oh, that sounds amazing. Like a great way to get a taste of everything Stellenbosch has to offer. Any other festivals worth mentioning?
Well, if you're looking for something a little different, there's the Franschhoek Uncorked Festival, which focuses on the Franschhoek Valley, just a short distance from Stellenbosch. And then there are smaller events happening all the time. Harvest festivals, winemaker dinners, all sorts of unique opportunities to really immerse yourself in the Stellenbosch wine culture.
So it seems like there's something happening year-round. It's not just a wine destination. It's a cultural experience.
Yeah, and I think that's an important point. Stellenbosch's beauty goes way beyond the aesthetic. It's a region with a really rich history and culture that's so intricately linked with the wine industry. We talked about the early French Huguenot settlers, but we also have to acknowledge the legacy of apartheid, something South Africa is still grappling with.
That's true. We can't talk about South Africa without acknowledging its complex past.
Exactly, and it's encouraging to see that many wineries in Stellenbosch are actively working to address social inequality and promote fair labor practices. They're empowering local communities and really striving to create a more equitable future for everyone.
So they're not just focused on producing great wine, but also on creating a more just and sustainable industry. It sounds like there's a real sense of responsibility there.
There really is, and it's a reminder that every bottle of wine has a story behind it. The story of the land, the people, the community.
That adds a whole other dimension to wine appreciation, doesn't it? It's not just about what's in the glass. It's about the entire journey that led to that moment. It's really amazing to think about all those elements that go into just one bottle of wine. The climate, the soil, the grapes, the winemaker's choices. It makes you realize that there's a real human element woven into each sip.
Oh, absolutely. It's more than just a beverage, right? Each bottle of Stellenbosch wine is like this culmination of history, culture, and passion. And as we've been talking about, there's this growing awareness of the social and environmental impact too. And that adds this whole other layer of complexity and meaning.
Hearing you talk about it, I'm starting to think of winemaking as an art form in itself.
It really is. It's this beautiful blend of science, intuition, creativity, and that deep connection to the land. And Stellenbosch really embodies that.
Okay, so let's say I'm ready to experience some of this Stellenbosch magic myself. Where do I even begin? There's so many producers, so many wards to explore. It's a little overwhelming, honestly.
I know what you mean. The choices can seem endless, but don't let that intimidate you. Remember those producers we mentioned earlier? Cannon Cope, Rustom Frede, Jordan, Vergeligen, Galergraf. Those are all fantastic places to start. Each one offered this really unique perspective. On Stellenbosch winemaking,
And we know that each ward has its own distinct personality, too, so maybe a good approach would be to choose a specific ward and then explore a few different wines from that area.
exactly. That's a great strategy. It allows you to really delve into the nuances of each terroir. For example, if you're intrigued by those elegant, age-worthy reds from Bangkok, you could seek out a few different Cabernet Sauvignon from producers in that area, and you'll start to notice these subtle differences based on the winemaking techniques and the specific location within the ward.
Well, that's a good idea. Or if I'm craving a crisp, citrusy white, I could focus my attention on Dronkersheet Valley.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to venture beyond the familiar grapes either. You know, that pinotage we talked about, it's such a unique expression of South African terroir. And who knows, maybe you'll even discover a new favorite Chenin Blanc from Stellenbosch.
I'm definitely feeling inspired to expand my wine horizons. But before I go on a Stellenbosch wine buying spree, I have one very practical question. What about the price point? Am I going to have to, like, break the bank to experience some of these high-quality wines?
You know, one of the best things about South African wines in general is that they offer incredible value for money. You can find exceptional bottles from Stellenbosch at very reasonable prices. Of course, there are some premium labels that command a higher price tag, but there's also this wealth of delicious options that won't empty your wallet.
Okay, so I can experience the magic of Stellenbosch without having to refinance my house. That's good news.
Exactly. That's part of what makes Stellenbosch so approachable. There's really a wine for every budget and every palate.
As we wrap up our deep dive today, I'm really struck by the fact that Stellenbosch is so much more than just a wine region. It's a place with a captivating story, a rich history, and a very bright future, it seems.
I completely agree. Stellenbosch is a region that's constantly evolving, but also honoring its past. They're facing the challenges head on, embracing innovation, and producing world-class wines. It's a really inspiring story.
So to our listener, we hope this deep dive has given you a deeper understanding and appreciation for Stellenbosch. It's a region that deserves a place on any wine lover's radar.
I think so too. Go out there and explore, herc out some Stellenbosch wines, research the producers that caught your interest, and if you ever get the chance, experience the magic of Stellenbosch firsthand. It's a journey that will engage all your senses.
Absolutely. Cheers to that. Until next time, happy exploring. 2212.